Forge the narrative.
Hey everybody, welcome to Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul Murphy, your host. We all about Lost Souls podcast. I'm joined tonight by Chris Morgan.
I am your custom librarian.
And joined again by Adam Camilleri.
Hey, how you doing? I need to think of something cool to say like Chris does.
It's on the spot. You know, I don't know. I mean, he may rehearse it. I don't know.
He does. He looks in the mirror 10 minutes beforehand. Chris, gotta be on today, Chris.
I'm often accused of doing that. I just want to stand by my own spontaneous wit right now. Totally off the cuff every time.
I just feel outclassed.
This week, we got us some first looks at some of the Sister Battle models.
Oof, they look good.
They look so good.
Yeah. I mean, when there's a soapbox, you want a soapbox. But if your soapbox isn't soapboxy enough, get one that floats, looks like an eagle, and has flamers attached. That's all.
So we'll, of course, oogle about the models a little bit. Anybody who's following along with my social media stuff, at Warmaster_TPM or at Fights with Dice on Instagram, I have completed the 2,000 point army that I've been painting over the last couple of weeks.
You maniac. There's
an asterisk next to it, though. I'm actually borrowing some figures for some buddies and a couple of listeners. But this is 1 Tech Marine, 5 Scouts, and 10 Intercessors. So it is a big chunk. So I got there, but with the asterisks.
The internet is aghast at your failure.
Well, I want to be forthcoming about it. I am actually a fast painter, and because I was able to kind of get in under the wire, I painted a buddy's kill team, an Ultramarine Primaris kill team, and I'm actually pretty happy with it. And I'll share some of the tips. There's zero highlights on these things, but because of the way that I painted them, you can't really tell. Like the base coat looks like a highlight. So
okay. So did you airbrush the base coat just to give it some pre-shading, or?
No, not that good. Yeah, don't spoil it. We're going to get to a segment.
I managed to push out. I think in the last 2 weeks I pushed out 10 Bulgren and 6 Cataphren breaches.
Okay,
that was for a team tournament I went to in Maitland, New South Wales this weekend.
Both squads for the one tournament.
Yeah, for the same army. I was playing in a team with a couple of other UTC players, and we actually managed to do pretty good. And that army, I tried to bring an army that had 3 big melee threats, that being the breaches, I think it was 8 Bulgren, with all support, like a Nastropath and a Priest. And then I took 7 Dragoons as well. Not 7, what am I talking about? 5 Dragoons. And man, Dragoons are so much friggin' fun.
Yeah, you're talking about the ones on the, the Iron Chickens?
Yeah, the Taser Chickens.
Yeah. Yeah, they really are. They're so fast.
I love Taser Chicken.
Yeah, they come out of nowhere with some explosive damage.
I think they're a lot of fun. The only issue is the bloody price. So per model, they are $83 dues, Australian dollar dues per model. And it's just like, that's, sorry.
Dollary due, just so I understand the colloquialism here. Is that the official currency name?
I wish. We actually had a national vote on it, and it was overwhelmingly yes, we should change it to Australian dollar dues, but the government wouldn't pick it up for who knows what reasons. Obviously, they just don't like
for Bodie McBoatface.
Yeah, exactly right.
They failed this city. Dollar dues. Now I just want to say it.
Yeah. They affected that stratagem, guys. The government affected it.
You got us launching a better internet campaign. I played this 2,000 point list I did, the one we were talking about, against a super competitive Eldari list this past weekend. The list for the Eldar played hit 1 infantry person. That was a Farseer. The rest was 3 Crimson Hunter Exarchs, 3 Night Spinners, 3 Fire Prisms, a collection of Wave Serpents. I mean, it was just all vehicle stuff, and it ended up being a very potent, powerful list. I think the only thing that maybe that I would have not had in there were I probably wouldn't have had the Fire Prisms in there. I don't know what I would have put in. Maybe Warwalkers, or maybe, who knows, get crazy with, the Wraith Lords. What's the Wraith Lord Psyker out of Forge World? The worst. Wraithseer, that's it.
Yeah, Wraithseer.
Yeah. Again, just kind of thinking, the Fire Prisms didn't seem to do as much work, but those Night Spinners were putting in a lot of time with that 2 damage weapon.
So my only lens on that list would be that you've got 5. I think you say you got 3 Night Spinners and 3 Fire Prisms.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
that's a lot of terrain.
2 and 3 or 2, something like that.
Well, that's an army that wants a lot of terrain, don't you? Like you've got 5 tanks that you want to have out of line of sight. You want to have just 1 Fire Prism. deploying out of line of sight, then jumping out, then or linking all the other through. So yeah, you're actually feeling like you've got like 3 to 4 ruins on your starting deployment, aren't you?
Yeah, but I think, a lot of tournaments are now playing with, some standardized terrain. You're going to see that kind of stuff. Again, it was a stout list. I mean, it was, he went first. I actually played going second just to test the durability of the list. He was able to get over there and disrupt. And by I say disrupt, I mean remove my 3 Thunderfire cannons. So then I'm playing on the back foot for the rest of the game.
Jeez, what did you kill the Thunderfires with? Just planes.
Okay, so yes, it is with planes, and it was even worse because I kind of like exposed my Tech Marines. I had an opportunity to deploy my scouts in a way that would have protected that maneuver, and I didn't. Instead, I chose to like throw my scouts up. I'm picking secondaries, right, for missions. So I've got like recon and all the stuff that I feel like I can control. And I just want to be positioned to where I can do that. And I essentially wasted my scouts. The scouts, I put them up thinking I was going to do something with them when I probably just should have used them defensively. So he could have likely still just killed the Thunderfire cannons instead of the Tech Marines. But then when you remove all the Tech Marines, then the Thunderfire cannons are removed.
Yeah, just pop. What do you think of the Infiltrator versus Scout argument? I mean, they're Infiltrators are literally double the price of the Scouts.
I love the Infiltrators. They have the extra rules. They get the same thing. They are 2 wounds. They've got rules plus.
Better armor save.
Yeah. They've got one turn and -1 to hit, so the turn they need to like dash from one line of sight cover to the next, they just pop -1 to hit on them.
Yeah, I do. I love the Infiltrators. I think where I don't know where this is going, like points wise, especially if we see different things coming from chapter approved. But Infiltrators and Incursors are high on my list of things to want to pick up and include in the list. The Scouts are there because they fill that checkbox. They're cheap. They're basically expendable unless you don't need them to be. And then again, I kind of punted and put them in a place where they shouldn't have been and they weren't useful to me at all. Like through my own blunders and going second, I'm starting the game. This leads up to like, I made another kind of ridiculous move just to see if I could. I ended up starting the game, a pretty big deficit because of some blunders of my own doing, like that were completely avoidable.
It always feels rough, doesn't it? How'd you end up? What is the result?
The result was, he was up by 1 point at the end of the game. So
if you just tidied up your first turn, you think that would have swung a 2 or 3 point swing?
I think it would have at least helped me with a point.
Nice.
Because, maybe you don't get the kill more that round. There's things that'll add up, like especially it's cumulative when you have progressive scoring. Maybe a round or two, there isn't that kill more point, and then you're able to you're protecting points while gaining points on your own. So it's every point you protect, and while you still have working pieces on the table, it's really a 2-point swing.
Yeah, exactly right. How do you? So I was playing Thunderfires for a little while, and I figured out that against planes, you kind of you put Baby in the corner, you put the Tech Marine in the corner of a ruin, and then you put the Thunderfire between the Tech Marine and the back of the board. So if someone flies over, there's literally no way they can get line of sight and be closer to the Tech Marine.
We were playing Hammer and Anvil, so covering a big distance, and so I wanted to.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they have a 60-inch range. They've got a really long range, but he could still have played that range game with me for a little. I got a little bit. Again, it was a dopey move. It was a move in a deployment that I did not have to risk. I could have put the Thunderfires and the Tech Marines exactly where I put them and just did a better job with my scouts. And so whenever he kills the scouts, maybe he kills a Thunderfire cannon or 2, but then I still have the Tech Marines and maybe a Thunderfire cannon that I can bring to kind of give those. The Thunderfires aren't going to do a ton against these vehicles, but every wound counts.
Yeah, it's very true. So just think about the things so at a line of sight, turn 1, what are the things that will kill a scout? So a Wyvern, a Basilisk, Thunderfires, Whirlwinds, they'll all kill a scout. But those same things will not kill a unit of Infiltrators, will they? Like a Wyvern even double shooting probably doesn't kill a unit of 5 Infiltrators.
No, and that's a big investment on your opponent's part if they are shooting twice or burning. I mean, just to kill 5, dorks.
Yeah, exactly right. And so, well, Basilisk do a better job, but then a Basilisk getting 5 hits, 5 wounds, you will need 100% will need to double shoot, even if you get 6 on both.
You just need to be playing catechins. That's how that works.
Yeah, just walk up and punch. Just walk up and punch. Yeah, man.
Hey, they're better at loading Basilisk too. It's these guns. Yeah. They do jobs all over the place.
Because we were talking list tech last week. And I decided to just cut the intercessors out and do 2 units of 5 infiltrators instead, because I was thinking about the things that I wanted to accomplish. And the intercessors, they're good, but they're better in like an Imperial Fists army than they are in my army right now. Whereas the infiltrators can zone out and they have that extra flexibility. They are a little bit tougher to kill. They're better for deployment. I think that the infiltrators make a really strong case over the scouts.
Yeah, same here. In fact, I'm going to Vic Masters, so my state in Victoria, we're having a Masters event this weekend, and I've taken 2 units of infiltrators and unit of scouts instead of my usual 3 units of scouts. It's just I don't know. It's more confidence inspiring having them on the board. I'm a big fan of when you go first, or when you know you're going first, because you deploy your whole army first and they have to seize, of trying to run and tag things with your scouts turn 1, because you can move and be 3 inches away. And the idea of doing that with infiltrators and against armies like demons and things, where they'll have to deploy a bomb on the board, they'll have to deploy a demon like bloodletters on the board if they want to come and like dig out your infiltrators. Just the idea of them having to do that in order to make use of any of their bombs really tickles my giblets.
Well, you're messing with their play, right? They have to then, what you now is you're changing the decision tree, and so they're more susceptible to making some mistakes, which
exactly right
disrupt their play and their board control.
Well, so those Jim Vessel style lists that sit behind the Plaguebearers and they drop bombs and they smite. A unit of 5 infiltrators out of line of sight, the smites don't function against them. They have 0 shooting that's going to function against them unless they're really taking into it and taking things like the Plagueburst crawlers. And then the smoke bomb turn 1 counters the Plagueburst crawlers. Plagueburst crawlers, even if they move, they hit you on 6s. If they don't move, they hit you on 5s. And then you're still going to have a 4+ armor against them, and it's D3 damage. I can still roll a 1. There's so many failure points to the interaction. Whereas if it was scouts, they just punt, dead, gone, move on.
That's a very fair point. Plagueburst crawlers. We were talking about like value buys for vehicles before. Where we're talking about 100 point and under transports, but people kept mentioning, well, what about the Plagueburst crawler? Like, yeah, but it's not transports. So that's why we didn't talk about it, but it's still a very much of a value buy vehicle.
Oh, 100%. I think if you're playing Chaos, if you're a dedicated Chaos player right now, you'd get some PBCs, get 3 Plagueburst crawlers. If you're going for an aggressive build, you take them with the Flamers. If you're not, you take them with the not Flamers. And I just think they're really good for their points. They're one of the hardest things to pick up in the game. When me and my mates are running the mass on the Plasma Executioners, they were one of the only things that a Plasma Executioner with all the Iron Hands buffs maybe doesn't pick up, apart from a Knight with a 4+ invuln. Like, so a Plagueburst crawler, because it's getting winded on 5 by everything bar the main gun of the Executioner, and then against that Executioner shots, you're getting a 5+, 5+ against everything. It actually becomes really, really, really nice at buffing up all of it and getting away from things. And it's only like 120, 130 points or something.
God, yeah, when you're sitting there, I mean, like, there have been many games. I was an early adopter of the Plagueburst crawler. One, because it was a neat model.
It was cool.
We use it in a team tournament because it has the economics of it. It's a low point cost, and it was basically just there the whole game. Like, even when people try to shoot at it, they're basically kind of wasting their shots. You got to really be dedicated to getting it all the way down.
Yeah,
so
it's
ultimate
just
value buy.
Yeah, and if you're using it as a screen, it gets you value every turn, no matter what. Even if it doesn't kill anything, if it's just there to be your screen, it's always going to get you value.
Yeah. So I mean, not to divert us on a subject. So yes, I do think Infiltrator's good, and I think that if maybe in this list, like I have 2 units of scouts, I may just consolidate that into 1 unit of infiltrators, depending on how the next couple of event goes. So with the other, so then again, dopey thing that I did, I was in complete control of that, by the way. Like, I knew what his plan was. I even like had the things on the table. I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going to move them up here because I just want to, I want to try to get a couple of points later in the game. That was it.
Yeah.
Complete bonehead move, silly move. I should have played, defensively, like in game theory where you take for granted that the opponent's going to do the perfect move every time. And so I knew what he was going to do. And I still chose like, oh, they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
I don't know what I did. I maybe should have like popped transhuman physiology or something
on the scouts
on the tech marines.
Yeah, that's good.
On the single tech marine, because then something like he's firing pulse lasers and stuff at him. And look, it took every single one of those buffed up Crimson Hunter Exarchs to kill them. So nullified one of their turns. I helped him with some not great rolling too. Active air positions. I've got the good armor save, several wounds. I got to feel no pain. Man, come on. I'm ready to take the punishment. And then, slightly below average on the rolls, but it still doesn't matter. It's not a dice situation I'm talking about. I should have never given him that opportunity, and I know it. And it was when you see it play out like in a test game, it helps just put it in the back of your mind. You know what the right thing to do is. Just do it. Don't let the physics defeat you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the other silly thing that I did was my chapter master, dude on a bike, make him a chapter master, gave him student warfare, which is the one that lets him consolidate 6 inches. I also put the burning blade on him.
Sick.
The burning blade's a -5 damage 2 weapon power sword. The chapter,
it's ferocious.
Chapter master it's cheap. It's 4 points. It replaces a power sword. The chapter master, with shock assault, it's got a bunch of attacks. I ended up going up and pasting a wave serpent all by himself.
Wow.
Yeah, the wave serpent had wounds on it, and then he did all the rest.
Attacking twice or attacking once?
Attacking once.
Wow. That is pretty good.
It was pretty good. And then this is where I got a little bit too greedy, is that I consolidated into another one and chose to fight twice.
And what after that one you bounced?
I did like 6 wounds.
That's still cool. Was you probably going to die next turn anyway? Or?
Not the best investment of 3 command points, but it felt good at the time.
Yeah, if he was gonna pop next turn anyway, if you were thinking, I'm probably going to sacrifice him, trade a Smash Captain for this Wave Serpent, why not take a chunk out of another one on the way out?
That's kind of where I was going. Is that I thought that if I reduce his pieces, he's got to kind of come out towards me a little bit. And I was playing, at this point, talking about playing, 300, 400 points down. I want to try to crawl back up into that. And so probably if I had it my own way, because also even if you consolidate into the Wave Serpent, it can just move away and fire. It's still going to happen at full capacity. I'm like, well, I might as well try to do something while I still have models on the table.
Well, and those are the kind of plays you want to do in practice games. You want to go, I'm just going to throw everything against the wall and see what sticks, see where the best investment on my CP is, just so I know whether this idea in my head is a mistake in a tournament environment or not.
Yeah, and I don't know that it's nice to know, like, you're playing out in my head, like, okay, what does a 6-inch consolidate really look like with the pile-ins and stuff? You get a really impressive amount of movement out of that.
Yeah, really, it's insane, actually. I saw a gentleman using the Assault Centurions from Outflank with the +2 charge and the 6-inch consolidate and pile-in from the Chaplain. And my God, the things you can do. You can just, I'm just going to go all over here. That's dead now. I'm just going to go all over here. It's to think that unit normally moves 4 inches, and then you can bring it in from your side of the board, roll a 7, and then move 12 more inches afterwards. You're just like, wow, okay, it doesn't actually move 4 inches, does it? The move, that little M stat doesn't actually mean anything anymore.
More of a suggestion. It's a guideline.
Yeah, more of a suggestion.
Cue the Benny Hill music.
Yeah.
But that's
6-inch pile-in and consolidate, or is it just pile-in?
Just the consolidate for the student warfare.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Student history or history or what? I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head is. But it's one of those to where once you start moving, because you do get the movement, the consolidate, the pile-in and stuff, like to get the most of that, don't base a model. Just get within that 1 inch, and then when it gets your turn to activate the dude, you scoot some more, then you do your business, and then scoot a whole lot more. And if you have the command points to frivolously burn.
Yeah, unless it's a character or something you're genuinely worried about being able to hit you back hard. Like, so against the character, because the heroic intervention is worded so poorly, so very, very poorly, that if you don't base a character, they can still heroically intervene and just kind of wrap around you, can maybe connect with some stuff behind you, and things like that. So always be really mindful of that heroic intervention.
Yeah, good point.
Because it's such a janky move in the right hands.
That's one of the things that made Knights so deadly in the first place, is because people were kind of unsure how it worked until they were like, yeah, I could just do this.
Yep, I can just do this. Sorry, you thought you were clever. No, sorry, you're not clever. Bang. Got that guy's one.
So that was fun to do. But then, despite all all the foibles and stuff that I made, turns out Iron Hands are like still really good. The flyers are strong. The heavy weapon, again, it just keys into like the benefits of the army, which is, how you should gear your list if you're playing for a particular faction. Is find what the strengths are and play into them.
Yeah, and it just seems like even though they've nerfed these, there's just still so much depth in these books that it doesn't matter. You could, like, I'm waiting to see what because on the weekend I played against a gentleman who was using the Salamander stratagem to shield a whole army of Raven Guard. So he had like 2 Salamanders characters and then some Invicta Warsuits who were Salamanders. And then they were just sitting in front of Assault Centurions, Aggressors, Vanguard Veterans, and just blocking the whole thing from my gun line. I was like, well, I guess if I just I need to play perfect 40k all of a sudden.
That sounds dirty.
Yeah, it is. It's absolute filth. What do you think is the fix for that? What is the reasonable fix for that stratagem? I'm of the opinion it needs to go up to like 4 CP, or it needs to be completely rewritten.
I try not to speculate on things. I'd rather to kind of like see how nature takes its course.
Yeah, that's fair enough, but it's also a cop-out ball. Chris, over to you.
The changing command points is always something that's a little bit easier than trying to fine-tune something from a unit point perspective. So, it's something that I don't think would be off the table. But if I were a betting man, I would say that we're not going to see many Space Marine changes in chapter approved. So whatever changes come, I think people had better be ready for a long haul. We'll put it that way.
Well, yeah, we play in a malleable environment to where these kind of things may get a look at, So this kind of awareness, us talking about it, people doing it out there in the wild, some of those shenanigans you were just talking about, it all helps build that awareness. So, if it truly is unbalanced, I'm sure it will be addressed.
Yeah, so I was playing in a team environment, and I actually did really well in that. So I went 5-0 at that event on the weekend, and my team ended up winning the tournament, which was I don't suppose it wasn't that unlikely to happen due to the team I had. My team was absolutely stacked, but that list that I was playing against it's got 3 Invicta Warsuits that scout up. The only reason I even had a game plan against that list was because he paired into me in the pairings process, and meant I got to pick the table. So I could see the writing on the wall how this army was going to work. It was going to scout Invicta Warsuits out of line of sight, and then there was no way I could target that character that was shielding his entire army. And therefore, even if I went first, I would not have a single optimum shooting target. So literally, the only thing I could do was pick the lightest possible terrain table I could, just so I could target the Invictus if I went first.
Because they just wouldn't have a way to kind of get out of line of sight. Is that?
Yeah, exactly right. So he has to deploy his. So he had plenty of terrain in his deployment zone, but he had bugger all in no man's land. So if he wanted to be aggressive at all, he'd either first turn having to be shoot all his stuff past the Invictus because they all had jump packs and scouts and stuff, or he'd have to put the Invictus up and hope that I don't shoot through the Invictus. Yeah. And with the army I had 2 tank commanders. I had the breaches who were D6 damage against them. I had 3 Scorpius tanks from AdMech as well. And so my likelihood of shooting through there.
So bestial. Those are good tanks.
Yeah, it is really, really good. So me being able to shoot through the Invictus is actually kind of likely, especially when I pick one of them which will get first turn charged by the Dragoons. And the Dragoons do a good job of killing an Invicta in a turn with the 4+ explodes. And so that was all I could do. If it was on a dense table, I think I just get absolutely rolled by that army.
I've got 2 Warsuits in my army. And
yeah,
they're
how are you finding it?
Against things that have bodies on the table, they're pretty good. But this list did not have any bodies on the table. I did use the Flamer to chew down one of those Crimson Hunter Exarchs. That was fun.
Yeah, that's a nice play actually. And did you? Well, so his one was Salamander, so he could pay for the
So that was going to be my
max
question. Is that how did you get into? I mean, did he just not have the CP to burn on killing all those Dragoons before you could get there?
Well, I went first. That was my big gamble, was going first on that table. Was picking that table and going first. If I knew if I picked that table and went first, chances are I'd probably take it because I have 1 turn to shoot down the Invictus, and then I have another turn to take space. So when he pushes in, I can get around his 2 characters that are screening everything. You can't possibly use 1 character to screen an entire army from an army that scouts like mine does. Because I paid 2 CP, I scouted up my breaches on one flank and scouted up my Dragoons on another. So I was going to pincer him either way it went. And I was always going to have shooting targets.
Well, I just meant the one where he pops the 12 hits, the half of the 4+ models in Overwatch.
Well, he did. Apparently you can't, because the FAQ says you don't treat it as a shooting phase, and it says in the shooting phase, my stratagem.
Maybe one of them is here. Tell you what, let's take a look.
Yeah, have a gaze. It's worth a look actually.
Let's look.
Because we actually checked that, and because he was pretty new to the codex, and we were having a look at it each other because I thought he could do it. But even if he does, it's only strength 5 -1 against the Dragoons. So it's 12 hits. It's probably going to be 4 wounds, and I'm going to save.
It's the fact that the one that allows you to convert on a 4. Each one of the hits is a 4+ mortal wound.
4+, yeah. So you stack both, and then all of a sudden he does 6 mortal wounds, and he probably kills a dragoon before it goes in. And all of a sudden that's. But is that worth? I think it's 3 CP to do both of those. Is that worth 3 CP?
Yeah. Tell you what. Hang on one second. I'll just grab it. Look, the Invicta Warsuits, I think they do great. I mean, I do think they are the best unit that we've seen, the best new unit we've seen in a long time, and I stand by that because they got the heavy bolter, being able to fire the heavy bolter as a pistol. The Iron Hell heavy stubbers were doing really well for me, largely because it's Iron Hand, so I don't want to discount that. But again, playing to the strengths of the army.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, my only fear is with the Invictus is literally exactly what happened on the weekend. He just gave up 3 big game hunter points. That's all his Invictus did. They deployed on the table, and then I picked up all 3 and got 3 out of 4 for a big game, because they're actually toughness 6 is a huge difference against a lot of armies. Things like Eldar, where they have mass toughness 6, but toughness 7 is all of a sudden this huge jump in toughness for them. But think about Star Cannons. Star Cannons, strength 6 -3 D3. Is that correct for Star Cannons, or is it flat 2?
Star Cannons flat 2.
I think it's flat 2, yeah.
Yeah, that all of a sudden versus strength.
The Star Cannons, I think that may be D3.
I think
it's the Hemlock
Pulse.
The Pulse Laser is just 3 damage.
Okay. Yeah, well, think about Invictus versus Crimson Hunters. Crimson Hunters will just pick up Invictus willy-nilly, but all of a sudden it jumps to toughness 7, and they will, maybe half kill it? It's a huge difference. Mind you, Iron Hands really changes the math as well. The 6s can be so swingy, so swingy on a 13-wound model. You can get none of them. You can get 3, 4 6s on 13 dice. It's such a difference.
But if you get it, Star Cannon is neg 3 AP D3 damage. Pulse Laser is neg 3, just straight 3 damage.
The Pulse Laser is strength 9, yeah.
Pulse Laser strength 8. Bright Lance is strength 8. The thing about the Pulse Laser is that it's 2 shots at a longer range. Like the Bright Lance is only 36, Pulse Laser is 48 inches, and then the Pulse Laser has that flat 3 damage, which can be better than a D6 depending on how your day is going.
Yeah.
I think the only thing about the Bright Lance that people would choose that is the -4 AP. That's pretty much the only thing it's got going for it, I think, that gives me sell value. But the consistent damage is so much more reliable than the D6. I rarely see Bright Lances.
Yeah, I can't get behind. If I have a flat option, even if it's only flat 3, I'll take that over a D6.
Yeah, only flat 3. You have to just get by with 3 damage.
Yeah, unlike repulsors and stuff, it's minimum 3. That's insane.
I don't mind that minimum though. I mean, it helps control the math a little bit. It adds value to the actual vehicle. You'll see it because of that.
I wish there was more of it. I don't like the idea of a demolisher cannon being D6. It should be maybe even just minimum 2+.
Yeah.
How am I doing 1 damage with this building shattering cannon?
That is fair.
But yeah, even things like maybe not Basilisk, maybe Manticores. Manticores only being D3 damage. That kind of holds them back. It just means the Basilisks are just better because they shoot for 6 turns, and they get the 2d6 take the highest and the cheaper points. Yeah, Manticore is another one that could use a base damage increase. And there's a bunch of other ones as well. I think every army's could probably got their 1 or 2.
Yes, fair enough. So I do still like the Warsuits again. It just giving up something's going to give up the points. I mean, I'd rather have the ability to disrupt some, or use as a fire platform, or a boogeyman, or a bit of a goalie. There's things you can do with this guy.
And having them as your only 3 vehicles, maybe. I mean, I know your list has the flyers and stuff, but having them as your only 3 vehicles is actually a bit of a question. If you have other options,
maybe that's a point. Things to. I mean, I thought they would be a distraction. It turns out he ignored the flyers and tried to focus on everything on the ground, which is solid, right? You try to boot somebody, but the Contemptor Dreadnought didn't take a single wound all game.
Jeez, nice. Oh yeah, you were talking about that. That was your little ace in the hole.
Well, because the C-beams, again, it's really good against a lot of stuff you'll face out there. Not so great firing against, vehicles. I mean, it really explodes when you get casualties on things. So great against demons or whatever. Look, the list was tailored to fight mine. It's not like I didn't ask for that. I'm like, I'm going to play this. Come over and wreck my shop. I mean, that was the request, right?
Yeah.
So it was a brutalist to fight against. And so some of the things that I have, I knew were going to be less value going into this engagement, but you're going to encounter that out in the wild. I wanted to just run through the paces of going through the rules, looking at my stratagems before I used them just to kind of get what I would consider a tournament level game under my belt before I go and embarrass myself these next couple of weekends in a row.
What's the tournament this weekend?
Coastal Assault, Armageddon Series Coastal Assault.
Nice. Is it being streamed anywhere I can watch you lose on the top table?
I don't think so. I may, if it comes down to that, a top table match where I'm circling the drain, I'll stream out to the Facebook page. I'll go live.
Fantastic.
But it's put on by some really great folks. Happy to be playing in it this weekend and trying out. This is their first 40k only event. This is the Coastal Assault has existed in previous years, but it's been kind of a multi game thing. But it's going to be only 40k this year, I believe.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
What is any reason for that? Are they downsizing, or are they just trying to invest in just?
No, I think just increasing the 40k count. That's that's it. I think it's going to be fun.
Well, the game is going absolutely gangbusters. I don't know if I'm allowed to plug my own stuff on here. Paul.
Oh, please, yeah.
Feel free to vect if you. So in Australia, we've for a long time. Australia is such a huge country, and we're also spread out population-wise. At the organisations I'm affiliated with, down at Imperium and down on the network, we've aligned ourselves and networked with a bunch of the larger and growing tournaments in Australia, and we've created a thing called Pillared events in Australia, and we're trying to promote cross state travel. So we're for the Down Under Pairings, which is essentially the Australian ITC rankings, but only for Down Under Pairings tournaments and things. The rankings, then we're going to have a prize of equal stature to the ITC prize. We're going to be giving away an international tournament ticket with flights and accommodation paid for.
Oh, that's great.
And so whoever comes top in those rankings at the end of the season. And the only requirements for those, it can be any tournament pretty much you go to that's going to be using Down Under Pairings, it's going to go into the rankings. But you have to go to 2 of the pillared events, and there's one per state throughout the year. So we're trying to encourage people so what we're trying to do is grow the scene and get more big majors. We want more keystone super majors and events of that nature in Australia. We want essentially we would love to have 4 in a year. At the moment, we've got CanCon being the end of the ITC season for us, and that one is going to be huge, and we don't want to touch that. That's its own thing. It's magnificent. But we want to grow and have 4 of those in a year rather than just having this one massive show at the end of the year.
That's a noble cause.
Yeah, well, that's what we're trying to do. We'll see if it works. We've gotten a lot of hype so far. It was fantastic. So I know there's a bit of an Australian constituent that listen to this. So get on it, man. Get on it, guys.
We
Everybody
did
out there,
some similar in the South. I said with the Armageddon series, that's what the Coastal Assault is the 4th event. Going to award a prize to the folks to the top 3 in the series. We'll see how it goes. While you were talking, I looked up Flamecraft, and that is in the shooting phase, only shooting phase. That's the one that allows you to maximize the hits. Flamecraft.
There you go. So could you still do the mortal wounds?
The fires of battle, yes, that is in the shooting or in your opponent's charge phase.
But then you're betting on the 2d6. So
use this stratagem in your shooting phase or in your opponent's charge phase when a salamander model from your army shoots with a flame or melted weapon. So you are betting on the 2d6, but that's command pointable. Yeah, you can still invest some.
Very true.
Turning 7s into 11s all day long.
Yeah, and those are both 2 CP stratagems.
Fires of battle is 1 CP.
That's pretty good. Considering that can be used on a single model, or it can be used on a unit, or it can be used on anything, yeah?
Any salamander's model, yeah.
Okay.
So that's it, man.
Nice.
So, back on that. And then we'll see how these tournaments go this weekend, I got one tournament this weekend for me. I feel pretty good. I think I've sufficiently found a way to get the army on a plane. That's one of the main hurdles, especially with a new army. You may not have all your foam. And
yeah, it's one of the hardest things to figure out.
I'm about to be taking a trip to the US in January. I'm coming over to you guys, and I'm trying to figure out what do I take, what do I leave, how much do I take, what do I need to get a new case, all this crazy stuff.
Are you going to be at the LVO?
I will be at the LVO. So I'm coming over for Charity Hammer in Seattle in the first weekend of January. So I've got an invite to that. I don't think I'm high enough ranked in the ITC rankings to play in the little RTT, but I'm going to be doing a lot of streaming for them and just hanging out, just generally having a good time.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's just brilliant that that's a thing that someone in Australia has been invited to, and we get to participate in the global stuff. I don't know. It's just nice. It's just good, wholesome fun, guys.
We'll have to catch up when you're over here. So I'll be coming out that way towards Vegas.
We'll grab a steak somewhere in Vegas.
Oh, that sounds fun.
That'll be the most expensive part of your trip.
It's actually everything's quite expensive, but apparently the like food and drinks and stuff isn't as expensive in Australia. But the problem is the conversion rate. The Australian dollar's not doing so well, so I'm paying a bit hand over fist for common things like that.
Maybe it'll swing up before your trip.
We can only hope.
Yeah. I can tell you, there's a really good Japanese place that's right outside the Bally's Hotel. You're going to want to go there. Pretty reasonable too. And
Japanese is my jam. Love it.
Oh yeah, it's authentic too. I can vouch for it. I went there every day last year.
All right, there we go. Well, I guess it's Forge a Narrative meetup at LVO is going to be happening at some Japanese place across the road from Bally's. It's on. It's happening. Lock it in.
You heard it here first. Hey, we're
right.
playing it. Why not? Right?
Yeah. I'm down for it.
We've actually had some unofficial pub crawls that just kind of seem to manifest.
Materialize.
We're going to do it again this year, too.
I don't drink, so I'm more than happy to look after your soggy.
Oh, someone's got to make sure we get through security.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Got to be on Uber duty.
It'll be nice to have someone else cogent to talk with.
Oh, you don't drink either, Chris?
Nah, I don't drink either.
No,
so
fair enough.
This will be the first. It'll be a first time. It's not just me.
We'll drag it around. Yeah, it's be good. Let's work out well. I'm only good for like 2 Cokes a night. They hurt my teeth otherwise. And as soon as I said that, I was like, wow, you are old.
Kidding.
Part of me wanted to say lightweight right there, but that doesn't feel appropriate.
No, it doesn't. Mind you, I hear that like in America, your portion size is just outrageous.
Yeah, that's what we do over here. We like to eat.
2 Cokes might be enough to fill half a bath. Now just have a soak.
Let's take a quick break. We'll come back and ooh and ah over some of these sisters models. See you in a minute.
Let's do it.
FTN is brought to you by Discount Games Inc. Please visit them at www.discountgamesinc.com. And don't forget to ask Jay about ways to save even more on your hobby projects.
We are back. So now that I've talked about everything I did wrong in my army list, I think I'm ready. Positioning, getting ready to not waste 3 command points to try to beat down a second wave serpent. Remembering later that I have transhuman physiology in my back pocket.
You live and you learn, man.
I'm just looking at the sisters models. So, have you guys had any good experiences with the new flight stands, the new curved?
Absolutely not. Those do.
Me either.
Like, I told you I built my buddy's kill team. He's got a suppressor in there, and I built it knowing full well that he's not going to get it in one piece to his tournament.
Yeah,
it's not happening. But I think it has to do the hard plastic of the resin and the way that it cups into there. It needs to be inserted.
It needs to be like a ball joint rather than just like a clip-in thing.
Yeah.
I've been nothing but disappointed with them.
If you can keep them on a shelf. But see, we don't. Like, we are...
You keep them on a shelf.
Well, I mean, if you could store them on a shelf, but that's not how us traveling tournament players work. We put the stuff in foam. It's got a snug fit in there so it doesn't bounce around the case. And then all that friction back and forth. Like, I'm comfortable with my models. They rub off. The paint rubs off sometimes when I'm slipping it in foam. That's really doesn't happen for me very often, but whatever. I get it. But they come right off those fight stands when you give them a little bit of resistance on there.
So you just need so the only models you're allowed to buy that have flight stands are really bad models in game. So then you don't feel tempted to actually use them, and then you're fine. Then the flight stands are fine.
I find that to be the case with the suppressors. Actually,
suppressors are going to be good in certain lists, but apparently I would imagine that they are just baller and kill team. I would have to imagine they are.
Yeah, they seem like they're pretty good.
Let's talk about these other models though. So the line is being completely everyone knows. If you're a 40k fan, even on the periphery, you'll know that this entire line has been due for an overhaul for a long time. They previewed it 2 years ago at Adepticon and said they were going to give us some insight about the creation process and preview models along the way, and they've done that to where.
And my God, they look fantastic.
Yes, I mean so the previous sculpts were really good at the time. I mean, they crammed a lot of detail, a lot of precise, crisp detail into a very small frame. Ribbed armor, lots of bolts everywhere, filigree, fleur-de-lis, all kind of heraldry.
Fleur-de-lis for days.
Fleur-de-lis just out of everywhere. They actually held up really, really well. Considering they're, 20 years old? Over 20 years old?
Have to be 20 plus years old.
Yeah, I mean, you look at how bad Abaddon looked before he got a new model. They're older than he is. Aren't they? They're older than that model, than the last Abaddon model.
I don't know if they're older than Abaddon.
I don't know about that.
The original Abaddon, anyway.
Yeah, well, fair enough. But they just look great.
I feel like you're probably right, though, because I feel like I'm trying to remember what is the first memory in my mind of looking at that, like that chapter approved at the time, the Sisters Codex before it was a codex.
So the earliest they could have come out was in the Witch Hunters Codex, which I just think was second or third edition.
I think it was definitely third edition.
Yeah, then they weren't. They're not older than Abaddon. Abaddon was out in second.
I could be wrong though. I mean, again, I'm trying to picture second, myself. What game store was I standing in? Whose house was I when I built the Abaddon?
Where was the angle of the sun and the solstice?
This is how I'm tracking it. Like like rings on a tree, or what is it? The layers of sediment when you're looking down through a canyon or whatever.
It's like carbon dating with ice, just at a glacier.
Oh, but these models, I know we said it, but they're absolutely out of control. The
regular Battle Sisters, I just think they're fantastic. They just encapsulated them perfectly.
They look taller.
Yep, they look more filled out as well. They haven't got this ridiculously skinny waists and look properly proportioned. And they look tough. They look genuinely freaking tough, man.
Yeah.
Well, and they're in motion. They're in dynamic motion for the most part. And if the model is standing still, then like the tabards and the cloaks are blowing in the wind in some respect. So everything looks like it's moving. I really like how they've created the kind of a momentum, like a visual momentum with these models.
When I look at the Arco-Flagellants, I just keep picturing Neo from the Matrix because they've got all the plugs on them.
When he wakes up in the Vaseline?
Yeah. The Vaseline.
I cross that with that one like Monsters Inc. monster with the tentacles. It just goes like it's like that, a hybrid of those.
The faces, they've done a much better job with the faces. I like it how there's some variance across the board. I think you can kind of make what appears, from what I can tell, with the heads on the kits. I don't know if that's just like the number that comes in the kits, but what we've seen with some, and this is pure speculation, that they're typically like head variants. Do you want them all to have helmets? Do you want them all to have, like the Space Wolf kit comes with 3 different types of heads in the kit for you to kind of fill out your squads.
Like Reavers, they have the full skull helmet, they have the half skulls, and there's a few bear heads in there.
That's exactly right. We're seeing more and more kits that way. But looking at this picture, I kind of want to believe that's the same way with these guys.
What is with the hovering pulpit? It's fantastic.
It really is. I love the way they've done the marble. So there's the standard bearer. I can't remember, what's the Codicizer or something. The one that has would have the
Imagifier.
The Imagifier.
Imagifier.
So the way they've done the marble on this Aquila and the marble on that standard, it's beautiful.
Well, it kind of looks more like a sandstone-y. Yeah, it's just really clean, really nice.
I'd like to believe that's just contrast paint. They've slathered on there, and we can all do it.
Yeah, same. What's the name
Let's keep open.
Junif Erutia.
Erutia.
Yeah.
Eruta.
It's got to be Erutia.
Erutia. Yeah, it has to be. Otherwise, it's just ridiculous.
But there's no I after the T.
Well, I mean,
sure. This will be the second named character. Yes, they got Celestine. Oh, so it'll be a third because they got Celestine. They've got Jacobus. And
you think he'll make it?
That's right.
I hope he does. Well, he's got a model. Surely he makes it.
He's got an old metal model.
That's true. He's very old.
Yeah, I mean, he might make it for, but still, you're right. And then, aren't there, there's Jacobus, Celestine, there was the old Confessor model, the guy with the mace. I used that mace, back when you could bits order metal bits. I got 3 or 4 of those maces.
Because I'd be getting the Blade to Caliban, I'm actually going to have to do a green stuff push mold of the Heavenfall blade that comes in the Dark Angels upgrade kit, just because I feel like I'm going to need like 9 of them at some point.
Well, you better cover your bases, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Which one of these is your favorite, guys? Like if you had to pick one model from what we've seen, what is the one that you just look at and you want to paint it or you want to have it?
That's a good question, man.
Yeah, because the vehicles look so good too.
I was about to say, I think it's a Pennant engine for me.
Yeah, the Pennant engine is really strong look. For me, what's the one here with it might be the Imagifier. The one that has she's got like the pulpit in front of her. This is an infantry troop with the pulpit in front of her, with the books and the candles as her backpack, and all the streamers coming down, holding up a scroll. Whoever did the text on these books,
that's the Dialogus, I believe,
is a master. That's
oh yeah.
I'm really happy to see the painting quality is back up again. I was actually really worried for a while they were letting the standard slip on their showpiece models, because there was a while that you looked at it and you're like, wow, I could paint better than this a year ago.
Hey, I'd rather think of it as attainable.
Attainable. I'd rather it be unattainable.
My favorite has to be the Dialogus. I mean, I think that's the one, because I mean, I have no designs on being able to paint that script and stuff in the text, but I like the model. And the canvas is really good. I mean, this crossbow bolter or whatever.
Oh, I don't even know what that is, but it's fantastic. I love it.
Well, what's her name? The Inquisitor model has one.
Greyfax has one.
Yeah, Greyfax. And, we've seen, and in the past, when they described the Witchfire bolters or whatever, they were supposed to be these crossbow bolters, the ones that did, back in the day, extra wounds to psychers.
Well, so Greyfax is... Sorry, that's something we can talk about. The Inquisition rules. I don't know if you talk about things that are leaks before they become real, but I've certainly had those come across my nose. The Inquisition releases.
Well, I mean, I haven't heard anything about that kind of stuff, but I think that fleshing out the Imperium is something that we will continue to see until the end of time.
I don't think right now in the state of the game is something anyone actually wants, except for those dedicated... Well, sorry. Sisters players, good for you. If you are a dedicated Sisters players, you are an absolute champion of the community, and you deserve to be revered and respected.
Well, see,
but
look at the web
Imperium players do not need any extra love right now.
Well, right, but we'll see it. I think that, I personally would like to see a change in how some of the faction stuff works. I think that the game is moving, like when we see doctrines right now, and not to get us taken aside, I want to continue talking about these models, but like the way doctrines work, they incentivize you to stay loyal to a certain faction and theme, and whatever. The rules support this. I would like to see some like combined Imperium stuff along the way, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe these Imperial factions get to play in that soup realm, and then these don't, because they don't really fight that way in the support.
It doesn't actually make much sense narratively for Sisters to operate alone as a mono codex, because they'd always have Inquisition or Assassins or Ministorum or all sorts of guard auxiliaries with them. They in pretty much every fluff piece I've ever read, except for I think Celestine's direct story from ages and ages and ages ago, there's always been some element of another Imperium faction. So it would make sense down the track if they
think about like the Sisters. They are the second largest arm of the Imperial military. By being the armed forces of the ecclesiarchy. So after the Guard, the most numerous military force in the galaxy is the Sisters of Battle. I can totally see them being their own faction. But
you're talking about, there's quite a steep cliff there. You're going from like hundreds of trillions to maybe hundreds of millions.
I know, it's not really a big number at all, but the narrative argument for allies, I think, is there's always a narrative argument for allies. For any Imperial faction, most of the time they would choose any human ally versus whatever enemy that they were fighting. It's not really hard to justify there being any kind of combined arms sort of thing when it comes to the different races, which is why when you look at armies like Eldari, where you've got Eldar and Dark Eldar, who for, like 2 decades were at each other's throats in the lore, but when it came to like Battle Brothers or whatever, they were on the same side for a sizable portion of when we were using an allies matrix.
Monkey brain thought.
Yeah. It's like, all right, we're going to put these animals down, then we'll finish fencing. So that was kind of the thing with them. The Sisters definitely, if they expand the range enough, because right now, looking at this, they've got a better and more expanded range than the Adeptus Custodes, and the Custodes of their own faction.
Yep.
Now, speaking of armies that function on the idea that there's other people around doing what they say.
So expanding upon that, here's an interesting note, because it's obvious that's the direction the game is going right now, because every Space Marine release has happened, and now we know the Sisters are getting the same thing, and this incentive to be monobook. What do you offer the codexes that don't have the choice? How big? Because essentially there's no incentive there. Necrons are forced to be mono Necrons. Tau's forced to be mono Tau. Orcs, etc. So essentially you wouldn't need to give them an incentive to do this, as we're getting with Space Marines and things. So how big is the benefit going to have to be to just offset the amount of buff we're giving Space Marines to make them want to play more Space Marines?
Every codex, unless it's designed not to be, like specifically, like deliberately designed not to be, should be a standalone book.
Yep, I agree.
Like, I mean, I'm of the opinion that, like, for instance, Iron Hands, the Iron Hands book should maybe have its own points that are disassociated from the Space Marine points.
Because things are valued differently when you take their specials into account.
Right. So, like, a Impulsor in an Iron Hands list may be 105 points. Something. You know, whatever. I mean, I'm only spitballing here. But I think that
that's a very finesse way of looking at it. I like that.
Should be deliberately designed, unless it's deliberately designed not to be designed to be a standalone thing. But with the way we craft this game, forge the narrative. I'm not even saying that ironically right now.
Yeah.
You know, we like to think of things like what we've effectively done is described our opinion of how the sisters will fight, how the Custodes fight. The Custodes, my counterpoint, they're armies of one. Every single one of them is an army. They don't fight with anybody because when the business gets done, you know, they're the only ones left. When it's come to the point where the Custodes are fighting, everything else is probably dead anyway, except what the Custodes have to beat. Space Marines, in a lot of people's minds, and my mind included, they don't like fighting with the Guard. That's why it's such a big deal when the Salamanders align with the Guard. When Russ stepped in and said, "You're not going to kill those Guardsmen," people are like, "That's why it's a big deal, because Space Marines aren't supposed to care about anyone."
Yep. And,
but I'm describing lore, narrative stuff, you know, so it's just one man's opinion.
And one of the seals to the underworld has just cracked a little. I just want to point that out. With that admission.
It's one of the prophesized chance of the apocalypse.
I'm not the only one discussing it on the show now. I don't know how to feel about this, guys.
Well, what I'm saying is I think it's we should probably not include that in our analysis or at least our opinions about how it should play, because we're all going to have different opinions.
I'm really glad that they're putting a focus back on making mono builds more effective and because non-mono builds are still very good. They've been good for the entire edition. There's a reason why, you know, the Loyal 32 and the what are they? They're heretics. I don't care what they're called. Something 17 or whatever.
Yeah, or the Crimson 15 or whatever.
When it comes to all that kind of stuff, like that stuff still exists in the game. It's not been taken away. They're just giving people who have either a tendency or a preference to play monofaction additional incentive to do so they feel like they aren't, you know, shooting themselves in the kneecap before going to run a marathon.
It's not even technically incentive. It's just the way the book is designed, and it's good, and it's better if you did it that way.
I'm all in for that. I think that it's fantastic. I like the option. Now, so far as how to solve Tau, I mean, Tau, they need some non-Tau racial kind of expansions to their empire, I believe. Having rules or having models for humans or other races, making Vespid that, you know, work.
Oh, you're letting your lore opinions get into my rules. Your peanut butter's getting into my chocolate. It's
right. And so far as Necrons are concerned, one of the things with Tyranids too, it's probably even worse for Tyranids, though. With Genes to their cults, it got a little bit less so. The general idea with Tyranids is they have no friends, but they have a really diverse range of models that they can choose from.
But what we're talking about here is why it's worse is because they can't benefit from shared rules. Just make the original rules awesome, and then you don't have to care what the other guy has.
Yep. That's a very short way of saying what I was getting around to, Paul.
Well,
this is why we keep you around.
What we're discussing is the variety of models that the sisters are being shown so far. So far, we've seen tanks. You were talking about the Penitent Engine, the Seraphim. I'm sure you can make the various infantry squads all out of this one kit. I mean, there may be another. I don't know if they discussed if there'll be what is the heavy weapon squads? The Purgitators? No, that's the Grey Knight one.
Grey Knight.
Yeah, the purgation is a Grey Knight thing. Yeah. We're getting the strings crossed a little bit. We don't want to talk about Grey Knights and Sisters together. It brings up some bad memories for some people.
It's Dominions for special weapons.
That's it.
Yeah. But what is their heavy weapons like?
Oh, I thought the Dominion was the heavy weapon one.
No, Dominion's special weapons. They can take all melters or all storm bolters.
They're like Stern Guard veterans.
Yeah, but there's one squad that can take all like multi-weapons or something, can't they?
There's Repentia. I'm just running off names.
Forgot about the Repentia.
Retributors.
There you go, Retributors.
I knew it was an R word.
Yep. So I mean, this is going to be a whole army.
Well, they've now got more unit choices than T-Suns and Thousand Suns. Like Thousand Suns has more, and I think they probably have more. They actually have more unit choices than Necrons. But Necrons has one of the smallest model ranges in the game.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Everything's a robot. But there's a lot of variants.
How many variants of robot would you like? 3. Yep. That's all you're gonna get.
Well, hey man, there were only like 2 troop choices for most Marines, and they were the most popular faction. So it's like you had scouts and tactical Marines for decades.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
God, these models are beautiful. I don't see myself starting a Sisters Battle army, but this would be a great time to jump on.
I just think it's going to be a great time for the game. Like, there's so many languishing. I have this three tier thing. Whenever a new edition comes out, there's a quarter of the players who do not move on. So there's a third of the players who do not move on to the new system. They prefer the old one, especially when it's such a big jump from what's 7th was to 8th. There's a third of the players who just jump on willy nilly, and there's a new third of the player base who will jump in just for that edition. People who will come back. The amount of people who are going to be old Sisters players who are going to come back for new Sisters, I think it's just going to be good for everybody.
That's a fair point. Anxious
to
see these rules.
Whether or not I get a new Sisters army, I think I want to paint up a Hospitaller. I really like that model. If I had to pick one favorite, it would probably be that one.
Nice.
Yeah, there's some the emulators aren't really a bad choice as they are right now. I don't think anyway. I like the ability to move and do those hits without having to roll. But the army itself hasn't had a whole lot of support around it.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if things like Exorcists get no line of sight shooting. It always just seems like something they should have.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how the rules go.
Phenomenally interesting. Yeah, really, really keen. And I'm actually curious to see how much the army costs. I'm hoping it's not as erroneous as things like Genestealer Cult was, because the last time they brought out a new range was GSC, and the price point on the GSC range is actually kind of absurd.
Do you mean on the per model, or just to get a whole army?
Per model. So, like GSC, was it Acolytes or Neophytes that you need Acolytes? You need like 100. You want to have 100 of them in your collection for whatever you need. You need a bunch of flamers, rock swords, you just want guys with whips, whatever. And they're in Australia, they're $70 for 5. For 5 guys.
You're bringing this Australian perspective, to things.
Count them. Do you know how many points they are per model in game? There's 7 points per model.
Yeah, I was about to say 7, 8.
It's
my experience playing a lot of the Australian players that I've interacted with. Most of them I've interacted with were 30k players, because it was just as cheap to get into 30k as it was to 40k at the time.
That's right. That's very right. In fact, I'm waiting to see if I'm going to be playing some AdMech, because I'm on the Australian ETC team, and we're tossing up who's going to be playing what Imperium factions at the moment. And if I'm playing AdMech, I'm not buying battle bots from GW. I'm going to buy Castellax from Forge World, because I just think they look better and they're only a fraction more expensive.
The Forge World AdMech stuff is glorious.
It's fantastic, and they've been teasing us for about 2 years, saying it's going to get 40. The whole range is going to get 40k rules, but nothing's eventuated yet.
I hope so. I love those Thalax and the Thanatars.
Oh, they just look so good. They look so
yeah.
good.
Yeah. The Myrmidons are some of my favorite too.
Well, guys, it's been a fun chat. It's kind of interesting how we're blending in what we our hopes and dreams.
Yeah,
but the models evoke that, right? I mean, they actually do. They're dynamic. They've got a fresh look to them.
They're mind-bendingly good. They are fantastic. There's a few little nitpicky things you can say here and there. Like I look at what's the name of the lady with the whip in the army box?
The whip? You talking about? Well, there's the
one that goes with the flagellants?
Yeah. What's her name? The Sister of Repentia or something? Sister of Repentance. It's just like, I just look at that whip and I'm like, man, I would break the absolute crap out of that whip. That's going to catch on everything.
But it's going to look good. You got to get it all together for army judging, for paint judging,
right.
And then you can do whatever the heck you want with it.
There's a few little funny things, like she's helmetless, but she's got braces right next to both sides of her head. 100% her hair would catch on fire, and not to mention the rest of her.
But maybe it's 40K. Not real hair. Maybe it's like special sci-fi anti-flame resistant.
Exactly
digital
right.
hair.
It's a hologram.
Flame retardant wigs or something. But yeah, I'm just totally nitpicking. I mean, we're talking about 40K. Yes, suspend all disbelief, all of it.
That's part of my headcanon for cloaks and jump packs. It's like, oh, it's flame retardant, and it's like magnetically clipped. So if someone tries to like tug on it, incredible style, like no capes. It's like, nope, it just comes right off.
Everything's fine. Your own turbine. You just get.
Nope, it just comes right off. You're good. That's my headcanon.
The pennant engines actually don't look that big now that I'm seeing them. So I've just gone to the picture, and in fact, the guy strapped to the front is the size of a guardsman. They're not even the size of. They're only going to be the size of 2 guardsmen on top of each other.
Well, they're probably the same about size they are right now.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Yeah, it's pretty because the sisters are a little bit bigger than they were, and they're on bigger bases. So when you put it in perspective, they're pretty close to the same.
There's another thing, like the whole theory that toughness 3 models are going to be on 25s and toughness 4 are going to be on 32s. I think it's just out the window. I think everything just goes on a 32. It just looks better.
It does look better. It's hard. I think I wanted to believe they weren't going to look better for a while.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if these are on 32s. They probably are. But there is, in the Warcry box, there's a size in between the 25s and the 32s.
Oh, my God. Say it ain't so.
So I'm not trying to start like Basegate or whatever. I'm just saying that, it might not all go to 32s.
We've been through that so many times already.
Were either of you guys playing Chaos during the transition between 6th, 7th, and 8th? Because I had a Chaos army. And
I never play Chaos.
Both Corn Dogs and Blood Crushers went through like 4 different base changes in like 3 years.
Oh, yeah, they did. Now they're on 50
I remember that.
It's like, what do you want, G-Dub? Just tell me what you want me to do.
Yeah, you wouldn't get a kid. But now they're okay. Let's talk. Can we talk about base size just for a minute, and then we'll wrap up?
Yeah, sure.
Eliminators are on 40mm bases.
Yep,
they are.
Did y'all know that?
Yeah,
I did. So, yeah,
I planned to proxy. I had to ask somebody if I could proxy my recon 30k recon marines as pseudo eliminators. Where I got them, and he's like, "Are they on 40s?" I'm like, so they're on 40s, yeah. I'm like, "No, they're not." And he's like, "Well, I guess you can't do them." It's like, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, totally fair.
But yeah, 40mm, and then in Flesh Hounds on 50mm bases. I mean, that's not news, right? But it goes into the board control stuff. So I mean, I was, while I'm putting together this kill team now, I've started working on eliminators of my own, but I hadn't got to the basing stage yet. So when I got there, making sure that I've got the right thing, I'm like, wow, is this really on a 40? Yeah,
they're 40mm ovals, aren't they?
It's not an oval. It's a circle.
No, they're round. They're ovals are round too.
The flesh ones. The what? Wait, did you say the flesh hounds?
No, the flesh hounds are on 50mm round bases, not ovals.
I just looked them up on the GW website, and they're on ovals.
They may be on ovals now.
Yeah,
that's the 4th or 5th base change then for those guys.
Oh my God.
Your people and your needs.
Maybe. Well, they got new models, right? So maybe when they switched to the new models, that's when they went to ovals.
Maybe.
But they were 50.
Maybe it's a criminal conspiracy to make us buy more bases, and there's a secret underground mob that's holding GW at ransom to make flesh hounds on different bases all the time.
That's what it is.
Well, I think that's
more likely.
25mm bases are going to be like the Fallout currency of 40k in the future. Instead of bottle caps, it's going to be 25mm bases. In the meantime, they look really good on my Lord of the Rings miniatures.
Nice.
Well, guys, I do appreciate y'all hanging out and talking with me about this stuff. And we'll catch y'all next week.
Awesome.
Good night, everybody.
Right on.
Good night.
It's all in the reflexes.